Now, a lot of us intuitively know the importance of trust. We know what good, trusting relationships feels like. The problem, though, is that very rarely do we understand how to build trust. What's the system? What's the operations? What's the framework to be able to build trust across our teams? If the world is going to continue to get uncertain, do we want people running for the exits when uncertainty hits, or do we want people running for each other and helping each other out? This is the power of a trusting relationship. Now, I'm a Canadian through and through, so I'm not a huge National Football League fan, but I am a fan of the leadership of this gentleman. His name's Kevin Stefanski. He's in the orange tie. And a few years ago, he was awarded a bit of a promotion, okay? He was promoted to be the head coach of the Cleveland Browns football team. And the way I see it, Stefanski had 3 strikes against him, okay? The first strike is that when he was assigned to be the head coach, he had never been a head coach before. He was a rookie head coach, a pioneer, a trailblazer in his own right. The second strike, for those of you that know, is indeed the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns are horrible, like really bad. Like 9 of the last 10 years, they were dead last in their division, okay? In 2017, they didn't even win a single game. And when they finally won a game in 2018, the city threw them a parade. I don't know if they're mocking them or celebrating them at this point, but they're not a good team, okay? Now, the third strike against Stefanski is that he was promoted to be the head coach in the first wave of the pandemic. So not only could he not bring his team together to work on drills and fundamentals in place, he couldn't even have them in the same room. So what was Stefanski, this rookie coach on a losing team in the first wave of the pandemic, what was he going to do to bring his team together and turn them around so that finally they could be a winning football team? Well, he knew the importance of trust, communication, collaboration, psychological safety. He knew that he had to get his team talking to each other. And not to just see them as players, but to see them as people. He didn't want them to see him as a leader or as coach. He wanted them to see him as Kevin. So he got his team together over Teams and over Zoom. We're talking 55 grown macho men. He said, fellas, I want to try an exercise with you. I call it the 4-H drill, which, by the way, we can all use the 4-H drill in our teams as well. He said, I want to share with you my heroes, my heartbreaks, my hopes, and my histories. Now, you might think that his heroes were legendary coaches in the NFL, and that's not true. His heroes were his parents, and he shared with his team all the incredible sacrifices that his parents made to give him the opportunities that he has today. He said, I want you to know who I am as Kevin, not as coach. And he shared with his team his heartbreak. He shared how he had this heartbreak in high school. I think a lot of us know that feeling. That heartbreak in high school that just shattered him. Had him playing that emo music up in his room far too loud, right? We've all been there before. Anyways, he said, this heartbreak, it pushed me into football. It gave me that grit, that resilience, that tenacity, that work ethic, all the characteristics and traits that I'm most proud of today. He said, that heartbreak actually pushed me to meet the wife that I have today and the 3 kids. Fellas, that heartbreak was the best thing that ever happened to me. And as he shared more and more, you could almost see the defensive walls of his team start to come down. They went from arms crossed to like leaning in just a little bit more. He shared what his hopes were. Not to win the Super Bowl, that's an obvious one. He shared what his hopes were for his family, for his kids, for the city, for the country. He shared what he believed in. And then he shared his history, not his football history. He shared his first rock concert that he went to. He shared all of the things that made him uniquely him, his favorite restaurants, his favorite types of food, all of the things that were just uniquely Kevin. Now, Kevin knew the importance of a psychologically safe organization, one where everyone on the team feels that they can share without fear of reprimand, without fear of being judged, without fear of being looked down upon. And so he knew that he couldn't force anyone to share something as vulnerable as the 4 H's, so he didn't force. Instead, he invited. He said, hey, does anyone want to share just one of your 4 H's? To which one player, I'd say he raised his hand. He probably pressed the raise hand button. He said, yeah, coach, I'll share with you. He said, I'll share with you one of my heartbreaks. He said, it's not actually a heartbreak. It was a torn ACL. And in 2017, I tore my ACL. And I think everyone knows that as soon as I could start walking, it was basically everything from the day I could start walking to the day I tore my ACL. It was everything that I could do to make it to the NFL. So when I tore my ACL, I thought it was over. We're talking like 15 years of training hard. I thought I was done. But then I got paired with this physiotherapist. Gosh, he just worked magic. I would say he rehabilitated me to 120% because I'm better now than I was then. But he said, Coach, that's not the best part. He said, I got married 8 months ago. My physiotherapist was the best man at my wedding. I gained a best friend throughout the process as well. Another player raised his hand. He said, Coach, it's my hope, but it's not really my hope. It's more of a mandate. I'm doing it now. He said, my father left us when I was 2 years old, and my mother, she started to work 2 jobs and do everything that she possibly could because she saw in me that maybe I could be here one day. And I know that I'll never be able to fully repay her, but I'm going to do all I can to bring as much of my salary back to her so that not only could I transform her life, but I could transform the community around her as well. She's such this beaming, this radiant light of positive change that I know the world around her will be a better place when she has the resources that I'm going to be able to give her. One by one, players started to share more and more about their 4 H's to the point where it was so successful, Stefanski said, stop, hold on. You guys are talking over each other too much. I can't hear what you're saying. So over the next 3 weeks, they shared a little bit more. People started to share more about their 4 H's. And as they shared more about these 4 H's, you could see the roots of this team just grow into the ground. The foundation on this new Cleveland Browns become rock solid. People started to collaborate, they started to laugh, they started to joke, they started to slap each other on the shoulders when they finally got back together, and they started to play better football. September 2020, a brand new Cleveland Browns team takes the field after their new head coach had only been in that position just for a mere matter of months. The Cleveland Browns team ended up being 11-5 in 2020. They made it to the playoffs for the first time in 17 years, and they won a playoff game for the first time in 28 years. Stefanski, the rookie head coach on the Cleveland Browns in the first wave of the pandemic, he was awarded the Coach of the Year award that year for the transformation that he made with his team. After that final loss, he went to the press conference to which everyone wanted to ask him the question, Stefanski, what was your secret? How did you turn this team around? He said, I don't know if I have a definitive answer, but I will tell you this. When my team trusts each other off the field, they play better together on the field. My gosh, that really stuck with me. When my players trust each other off the field, they play better together on the field. Here's a question for you. Do you know who your players are off the field so that we can play better together with them when we're on the field? Because here's what I've learned. Trust? Well, trust is a lot like gas station sushi. What? I was filling up my, I got an applause, I haven't even started the joke yet. I was filling up my Jeep 2 days ago, actually, and I came in from Vancouver. Maybe I should probably tell you that. And both one of the good and the bad things about that is that we love to brag about our knowledge of good sushi, okay? I think I'm like this close to mercury poisoning. It's become a bit of a problem. So I went with my partner for sushi the night before that, and I went to go fill up for gas the next day. And I'm in the gas station. We've all seen it before, that gas station sushi lined up. And I got to tell you, having just had sushi the night before and probably the night before that, I'm looking at this sushi, I'm thinking, dang, that looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. Did I buy it? No, of course not. If I bought it, I probably wouldn't be here today, right? I'd probably be, no details on that, but I probably wouldn't be here today. So as I'm walking out of the gas station, I'm scratching my head thinking to myself, why didn't I buy that gas station sushi? And it dawned on me that I didn't buy the sushi because I didn't know anything about it. And because I didn't know anything about it, I didn't trust it. I didn't know if it had been there for 5 minutes or 5 days. I didn't know if it was caught fresh that morning or flown in from across the country. I didn't know if it had been frozen and thawed, or if it was made fresh by the resident sushi chef in the back of the gas station. I didn't know any of these things. I could assume, but I didn't know any of these things. And because I didn't know anything about it, I simply couldn't trust it. Now, I know that a lot of us are in leadership positions. We have a lot of roles, a lot of responsibilities, a lot of deadlines, a lot of huge weight that's on our shoulder, that requires us to delegate, requires us to get help to do it, requires us to utilize the teams that we've worked so hard to build. But it's tough to pass along this responsibility when you don't know who you're passing it along to. At the end of the day, it's probably your name on the piece of paper, on the email, or on the report that goes out to the person at the end of the week. And I found that the more we can learn about the people around us, the more we'll be able to trust them too.